Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News on 3FM. My name is Beatrice Adu. The news is also live on Kesmi 107.1 FM and across the world at 3news.com. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. This afternoon, troubling statistics show Ghana has, over the past 20 years, lost a significant portion of its forest cover, equivalent to 5 times the size of the Greater Accra region. Details coming up as we mark World Environment Day today. Also, presidential candidates' preferences research reveals a close context between MPP flag bearer Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia and NDC's John Dramani Mahama, with Bawumia slightly edging his main contender ahead of the December elections. Meanwhile, as Electoral Commission flip-flops on decision to bar political parties from voter transfer exercise, main opposition NDC vows to resist gerrymandering. Thank you very much for joining us. And now, Ghana's forest cover has been depleted 5 times the size of the Greater Accra region. According to Global Forest Watch, trees cut down in Ghana since 2000, if measured, would take the land mass of the entirety of the Greater Accra region 5 times. The revelation comes as Ghana joins the rest of the world to mark World Environment Day, themed land restoration, desertification and drought resilience. In 2023 alone, 110,000 hectares of natural forest has been lost. A development environmental NGOs say demands immediate intervention. I have in the studio with me Wisdom Safo, who is with our research desk. Wisdom, I know you've been going through the report. Give us details as regards what it says.
Oh, okay. The report was released, as you rightly mentioned, in 2023, and it paints an alarming picture. So the rate of Ghana's desertification is alarming, as seen in the report, and as of 2023, Ghana lost 110,000 hectares of natural forest, and that's 1/3 of the size of Greater Accra region. Now, between 2001 and 2023, that's 2 decades, Ghana lost 143,000 hectares of its humid primary forest over the years. Now, Ghana tree forest cover has decreased 1.64 million hectares within this period. Now, this accounted for 8.9% of the total tree cover loss and 13% reduction in the humid primary forest lost area. Now, let's walk you through the top 5 regions affected by this tree cover loss, and leading the top spot is Western region, losing 574,000 hectares of tree cover. Followed closely is Ashanti region, losing 382,000 hectares. Followed Eastern region with 223,000, Central region 215,000, and lastly Brown Ahafo region losing 191,000 hectares.
I mean, huge numbers there, but what's contributing to these losses you're giving us?
Now, Beatrice, it's alarming to note that only 3.4% of the tree cover loss was directly due to deforestation. Now, there are other contributing factors that's contributing to the 95.6% loss. Now, only illegal mining is contributing 40% of the tree cover that has been lost for the past 2 decades.
Huge. Very
huge. Now, a recent report by the Forestry Commission stated that 38 of our forest reserves had been destroyed because of illegal mining activities. And this paints an alarming picture. We all know the Ministry of Land and Natural Resources are making conscious efforts to increase the amount of trees that we have in the country. But
with a Green Day.
Yes. But we all have a collective responsibility to solve this problem, because if you don't take care, the next generation won't have any forests for them, and that's not good for us as a country.
Thank you very much, Wisdom Safu, for bringing us the statistics and the details in that report. Meanwhile, civil society organizations in the northern region are raising concerns over the government-led national tree planting campaign, and a northern regional correspondent, Christopher Amarko, is standing by for us. Christopher, what are the CSOs saying about the Green Ghana project in the region beyond what we've discussed?
Yeah, so basically what the CSOs are saying is that over the period since 2021, when the Green Ghana initiative was launched, government has continuously reported on figures as to the number of trees that have been planted over the period. But the reality is that according to them, when you go to the grounds, even though a few of the trees have survived, but majority of them are unable to survive because of one, the weather patterns here, because we only experience rainfall patterns for only 4 months. The other 8 months are dry season, and so these trees are not watered. Bushfires have also contributed to the loss of these trees, and so it's about time that government thinks about a way of sustaining these trees rather than the fanfare that we see launching of the tree planting exercise and the money that goes into it.
All right, thank you very much, Christopher Marco, bringing us the situation in the northern region. Let's have a quick conversation on this with coordinator of Eco-Conscious Citizens, Awula Sewa. Good afternoon to you, ma'am. Thank you for joining us.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Forest cover Ghana has lost over the years is more than the size of the Greater Accra region. In fact, times 5. And we're hearing illegal mining contributing to about 40% of that. Must be worrying indeed.
Of course, it's worrying. And, we seem to be like ostriches, burying our heads in the sand. Every so often we come every year, a lot of fanfare, Green Ghana, Green Ghana. But the reality is that we are not serious about greening Ghana. We have passed EI 144, which declassifies parts of Achimota Forest, which is a forest with trees, and we are saying that it should no longer be part of the forest reserve. And then in a perverse move, Parliament has passed LI 2462, which allows for mining in forest reserves. We know the forest reserves are full of trees, and they've been kept there for a purpose. It can even log there, and even in globally significant biodiversity areas. So it seems like the Green Ghana, we are going to plant so many millions of trees with no real audit about how many trees were actually planted, how many actually survived, how many have been munched by goats, how many died. We don't really know how many were left in the compounds of municipal assemblies. I personally saw some withered plants in the compound of municipal assemblies I will not name at this present time. So for most people, it's a gimmick. We are not particularly interested in the environment. We don't even know that we face a clear and present danger, an existential threat, as our forest reserves are being destroyed and our water bodies poisoned by irresponsible mining.
Beyond this, and you just talked about the legislative instrument 2462. I know that you and other groups are calling for us to repeal that. Does it look like there's any commitment on the side of authorities to ensure this is done?
There's so far no commitment. I mean, the National Democratic Congress has said that should they come to power, this is something they were looking at. Whether that will be the case, no. We know that all sorts of promises are made, but the test is when people have the opportunity if it's actually done. But it's something that every Ghanaian should be concerned about. The Constitution ensures us to protect the environment. How do we protect the environment? When we allow in our forest reserve, it doesn't make any sense. Even globally significant biodiversity areas. So what we can see is that there's no understanding of the importance of our spaces. There's no understanding whatsoever. We just go to conferences upon conferences. We engage in publicity stunts to the extent that a private developer is taking parks and gardens to court, declaring that some of the 2.125 acres of parks and gardens in Accra belongs to him. And in fact, we have a petition going around asking for an audit of all parks and gardens lands in all the regions of Ghana, because most of them have been encroached upon to the extent that a petrol station is being built on parks and gardens lands in Wa. I mean, really, really.
This year's theme, land restoration, desertification, and drought resilience. How do we make that a reality beyond your concern of a seeming lack of commitment on the part of those who are supposed to make this work?
You see, we can only make it a reality if, first of all, we understand that, the droughts and so on and so forth can be caused by human activity as well. So in terms of the human activity, where you have your green spaces, you have lush forest reserves, and then you decide to go and mine there, what does mining do? It takes away all the vegetation. It takes away the trees. And then you go and get rid of trees that have taken hundreds of years to be there, and then later on you're going to restore it. Fair enough, but why put yourself in that situation? That is why we have reserves, where in those areas, you don't touch those areas. You touch other areas, but not your reserves. So yes, there's a question of restoration, which a lot of the time is not being done, because it's supposed to be paid for by those who have, the polluter must pay. So those who have caused the devastation are supposed to pay for the restoration, which they seldom do. We find our taxpayers' money being used to do that. So that is something that needs to be done with immediate effect. But there's no point in, allowing the destruction and then you go and do restoration. Why don't we do the preventative, where we do not touch our forest reserves, where there's legitimate mining going on? Yes, there should be restoration, and we should ensure that we put the land back to its former use, so that we look at the trees that were there, the local trees that were there, and we make sure that we replace it with what was there. Because it doesn't help when, you put, let's say, foreign trees in a particular area where local trees were thriving. So there's a science in restoration. You just don't do it willingly.
And very briefly before you go, I would just go in there, the LI 2462, to what extent are you, as in your group and others, going to go to ensure that you get what you're asking for?
Well, we've been doing a lot of campaigning. We actually last year we did a bit of picketing in front of the Minerals Commission, which is irresponsibly issuing mining licenses, and also Parliament, which passed the LI 2462. Because what we have noticed that since the LI 2462, I don't have the exact figures, but a number of globally significant biodiversity areas are being destroyed because of the passage of LI 2462. So we are campaigning against it, using every opportunity we have. Today, for example, whatever conversations we have, we raise it, and we are telling voters that when you are going to vote, do not vote for any. Our party is Ghana. Our only party is Ghana. So do not vote for any political party which does not have the interest of the people at heart, because it's destroying the environment. Because we have only one environment. The good Lord put us in the Garden of Eden, not in the Garden of Concrete, because he understood the value of our green spaces. Recently, it was the Draw River, which Draw River Forest Reserve, a mining license has been given, thanks to LI 2462. So what we are saying is that we are calling out on all individuals, all Ghanaians, to take their responsibility seriously. The president said be active citizens, not spectators.
Indeed. We'll have to end it here. Thank you very much. Coordinator of Eco-Conscious Citizens, Awula Sewa. Now, members of the Locked Up Investment Holders Forum have resumed picketing the Finance Ministry following the ministry's failure to engage with the group as promised. The group had suspended an earlier protest following assurances from Deputy Finance Minister Dr. Stephen Amoah to address their grievances. The members have been demanding that the Finance Ministry provides assurances to enable the Bank of Ghana to pay funds locked up in defunct finance firms. The convener for the group, Dr. Edouard Nanientri, says they have been left with no choice but to resume picketing due to the lack of engagement. And Joseph Armstrong Alogbe has been observing the picketing and joins us live on the phone with details. Joseph, what more can you tell us?
Yeah, Judith, currently the members are currently at the entrance of the Finance Ministry. Of course, they have been kept outside behind the gate, and they are still waiting for the Finance Ministry leadership to come and say something to them. If not, they are going to keep coming there every Wednesday to picket at the finance ministry entrance. And more worrying is how some of them in their 70s and also some in their late 60s are saying they regret ever investing any part of their money in any of the financial institutions we have in the country, because now it appears it's no longer safe to invest your money. It's better you keep your money under the bed than to send it to the bank. These are some of the unfortunate things that some of these elderly people who have worked, some for more than 40 years, are saying, and it's not something that is so good. So we are still keeping an eye on the situation here, looking forward to see if any of the members or the leadership of the finance ministry will come out to meet with them, Judith.
Thank you very much, Armstrong Alogbe. There we can hear Dr. Adu Adu speaking to journalists earlier.
We told the press that we call it, of course, the first day that we did a picketing at the ministry, the Deputy Minister of Finance, Dr. Stephen Amwa, came to us and promised that they were going to get back to us. We didn't hear from him until Tuesday, the day before the next picketing. We are going to do the next picketing on 26th. So by 12:20, I had sent a letter to the police that the picketing was coming on the next day, which was the 22nd. Then afterwards, I got a call from the minister, Deputy Minister, Dr. Simiawa, that the ministry has planned to meet us, but he has some official travels to make. So, but did they give you a date? We should let him travel and come. He's returning on 27th. So when he comes back, he will arrange for us to meet. Because of that, we decided to suspend the picketing for that 22nd and also 29th. Because if you are traveling and you are coming 27th, it will be too close to 29th. So we suspended it for 22nd and 29th. By 29th, we haven't heard anything. Then last Thursday, I sent him a text message, one by WhatsApp, one by SMS, and said to him that we are still waiting for him to call the meeting that was promised. We didn't receive any response from the ministry, and that is why we are resuming the picketing.
And you heard Dr. Adu Adu, he's convener of the Locked Up Investment Holders Forum. Earlier, you heard our reporter Joseph Gold Alogbe, who gave us an update of what's going on at the Finance Ministry. Now, Ghana's election management body has again flip-flopped regarding decisions it has taken ahead of the December 7 general election. The Electoral Commission, after earlier barring political parties from monitoring the ongoing vote transfer, has reversed the decision to prevent political party agents from observing the exercise. In a release signed by Deputy Director of Research, Monitoring and Evaluation, Fred Tete, the EC said that the decision stemmed from concerns from stakeholders following its initial decision. The National Democratic Congress refused to adhere to the initial directive. We'll be speaking to the NDC, or rather, we'll be hearing from the constituency chairman for Ayawaso West, Wogon Bismarck Ayete. But first, let's connect to Judith Brown, who is covering the exercise for us. She joins us live from that constituency. Judith, tell us more. We are learning that the NDC executives are not happy about what's going on.
Right, so Beatrice, yes, I am at the old Electoral Commission's headquarters, and in this area about 5 constituencies are engaging in the voter transfer process. Oh, yes, the political parties are back here and following the reverse decision by the Electoral Commission. I've been speaking to Bismarck Ayete, who is the NDC constituency chairman for Ayawaso West Wogan, and he is saying that he is not happy about, in fact, the party in its entirety was not happy about the EC's earlier directive to bar the political parties or the party agents from observing the process, because he believes that this is supposed to promote transparency. And if the EC is saying that we are trying to promote transparency, this decision shouldn't have been taken in the first place. And so generally, both parties are welcoming the fact that they have reversed that decision, but they believe that this was a rash decision in its entirety. This is what he's been saying when I spoke to him.
They acted contrary to their own rules, regulations governing the elections. Because You cannot sit down and because an incident happened, you say because agents of both political parties are fighting, you may not allow fairness, transparency to come into your activities. That was wrong. And for me, they were not helping matters because back and forth statement like we have been seeing, you see they are trying to explain yourself. How do you cancel a process and use 2 pages to explain yourself? It means initially your decision was flawed. It was based on no thorough thinking. That is what I see. And I believe that now we are monitoring them. And we believe that they will be correcting themselves as we go forward. But they should perfect their activities as we run into December 7. We don't want what happened in 2020 to happen, declaring results 6 times, ensuring that 100 percentage-wise, we will see that 100% for presidential vote. That is serious thing that should happen to elite country or electoral commission that we claim we are the best in Africa.
Bismarck Ayete is the NDC constituency chairman for the Ayawaso West Wogon constituency in the Greater Accra region. Judith Brown is still on the line with us. Judith, was there any word from the MPP?
Right, yes, there was a word from the MPP, basically also saying the same thing about the decision being rushed. In fact, I had actually spoken to the NDC earlier on the fact that in the EC statement, they had stated that the laws governing the EC bar any political party from denying anyone the ability to transfer their votes based on issues of eligibility. They would have to wait for the voter exhibition process before they can challenge anything of that sort in terms of eligibility. The NDC, on their part, we're not happy about that directive by the EC per their laws, but the NPP says that this wasn't the right direction. So I've been speaking to the campaign coordinator for the parliamentary candidate for the NPP, the Clote constituency, and this is what he has been saying.
I'm sorry, Judith, we don't have that, but thank you very much. We'll bring you that later in our subsequent bulletins. I'm joined on the line now by Professor Dr. Jonathan Asante-Okyere, a political analyst. Good afternoon to you, sir. Thank you for joining us on the news.
Good afternoon, Beatrice.
Doc, I'm sure you've been following this back and forth between the Electoral Commission and, should I say, stakeholders in this upcoming general election. Are you concerned, or rather, should I ask you about your preliminary thoughts about what has gone on so far?
Come again, Beatrice. Your line is...
Indeed, the line is not so good. Let's correct that and we'll get back to you. That's Jonathan Asante-Okyere. Our line is not so clear. We'll try and fix that and get back to him for a conversation. You're still here on the Midday News on 3FM. Stay with us. And we're still here on the Midday News on 3FM. Thank you for staying. We'll be connecting to Jonathan Asantioche very shortly. But ahead of that, presidential candidate preferences research has revealed that the race for the presidency is tight, with the MPP's Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia leading by a narrow margin of 38.9%, followed closely by the NDC's John Dramani Mahama with 36.1%. Let's listen to Professor Smart Sapon, a political analyst and senior lecturer at the Kumasi Technical University, sharing his views on this.
Nationwide, the National Democratic Congress is quite popular, with a lead percentage of 38.8%. 38.8%, followed by the New Patriotic Party with 34.5%. Followed by all the other political parties put together. In fact, we were reaching saturation at a point, and so I decided to call them other. You know what I mean. So we summed all of them together as other, and even when we put all the smaller political parties together, they made only about 3.6%. The good news is that political parties can improve on their popularity on the ground, because there are still a good number, 23.1% of the population unaligned, uninterested. But with the campaign and the way they go about their conversation, perhaps they can get more. So political parties can improve on their popularity, so that by the next time we come here, perhaps things might have changed. Or if we want to describe those people as unaligned or what we call floating voters, so that's fine. But as of now, the popularity of the NDC is ahead of the popularity of the NPP.
Yeah, there, Professor Smart Sapon. He's a political analyst and senior lecturer at Kumasi Technical University. Let's go back to Dr. Jonathan Asantioche, who is a political analyst, on our earlier conversation about the Electoral Commission and stakeholders in this year's general election. Doc, hopefully the line is better now. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. You're welcome.
So I was asking you your preliminary thoughts on this back and forth between the Electoral Commission and stakeholders, particularly political parties, regarding the exercises going on so far.
Well, let me say good afternoon to your listeners and your good self. The prevaricating nature of the Electoral Commission leaves much to be desired, especially when decisions that have been firmed up at IPAC, will see a 360-degree turnaround. And I think that in itself does not augur well for the electoral confidence and electoral process itself, because what it forebodes is some kind of unforeseen mayhem and chaos, as we are witnessing at the various, registration and headquarters, of the Electoral Commission. And so I think that situations of that nature, if we do not have level-headed people or stakeholders that are dealing with, things of that nature are likely to happen. And so what we are seeing are witnesses of the prevaricating nature of the decisions of the Electoral Commission. And I think that in itself, is terrible. We need to condemn that. But that aside, I'm also of the view that if you see that you've done something wrong and you go back and do the right thing, it is in order. But the point too is that if the main opponent or the main stakeholder or one of the main stakeholders in the character of the NDC had not spoken about things of that nature, obviously the EC would have continued with that. But what is equally surprising and intriguing is the fact that it appears whatever the EC says, the MPP, that's the main opponent of the NDC, will agree to it. Now, when they turn round again to go back to the drawing board in terms of the decision that was firmed up at the Electoral Commission in terms of IPAC, then you see the MPP equally coming back to support that. So it creates the impression that if the main opposition had not resisted those changes, as it were, then it means that we would have been witnessing things of that nature. And tomorrow, that could lead to something else that we all don't desire.
We'll have to continue the discussion later, but thank you very much, Dr. Jonathan Asante-Okyere. Let's wrap up with this, and it has to do with the NPP flag bearer, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, saying he will roll out agriculture as a major policy to address the high prices of food on the market. Daniel Opoku is following him. He joins us live now for a very brief conversation. Daniel, tell us more of what Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia has been saying.
So, good afternoon to you. Today is the day for the Vice President of the Greater Accra region. And as usual, when we look at his itinerary consistently, wherever he finds himself, he tries to commune and engage with the Christian community. So today, when he came to Tema, he decided to engage the Christian community, where he showed his ideas to them, introduce the tax system, and also trying to reduce hardship and also reduce public expenditure. But most cardinal and salient points that was asked the Vice President has to do with the free SSS program. We all know the problems associated with the free SSS in terms of there are those calling for its review. And there are also issues about the food shortage. The question was to the Vice President. And when you go to the Ghana Armed Forces training, Ghana Armed Forces school, what they have decided to do is to involve parents in the service of the food items so that you don't have cases of shortage of food and all that. So the Vice President says tomorrow we'll be meeting the Minister of Education. It's one of the ideas that he will table before him to consider by cabinet that will include parents in the servicing of food to be able to address the food shortage. That's what I've been talking about. And also, they need to expand food production, also they need to expand agriculture. These are some of the policies that he has tabled before them. And right after that, he has not currently engaging the Muslim community.
Thank you so much, Daniel Opoku, for bringing us that update. We'll get more of that in our subsequent bulletins. Thank you very much for joining us today on the news. My name is Beatrice Adu. Have a good afternoon.
Accra gets busy on this frequency. 92.7 3 FM.
Hello there, good afternoon. It's time now for Business Daily. Coming up, Locked Up Investment Holders Forum blames Bank of Ghana for delayed action following defunct firm's liquidity crisis. We'll hear from its convener, Dr. Edu Ananientwi.
Bank of Ghana knows that they have become insolvent and their licenses must be revoked. And they have told us that they can revoke the licenses today.
Also, Treasury bills account for 74% of volumes traded on the fixed income market as Ghana Stock Exchange records 4 price gainers in May 2024. We'll bring you details on that. And financial analyst bemoans low investor confidence in real estate sector amid increasing cement prices. Well, I'm Michael Ogbodu. I'll bring you details of our top stories and more shortly. Please stay with us. Thank you so much for your time. Now to our top story. The Locked Up Investment Holders Forum says the Bank of Ghana is to blame for failure to be proactive to safeguard investors' funds held by insolvent firms. The forum resumed its suspended regular picketing at the Finance Ministry today over the ministry's failure to engage members as promised. Addressing the media, convener of the forum, Dr. Edu Ananientwi, said his outfit will stop at nothing to ensure that government pays all monies owed members.
The law, when a company has become insolvent, a financial institution has become insolvent, the law requires the Bank of Ghana to revoke their licenses. In fact, the law says if you foresee that in the next 6 months a bank or a financial institution will become insolvent, start the resolution processes now. But these people, some of them have been there for 4 years. NDK like this country for the past 4 years. So Bank of Ghana knows that they have become insolvent and their licenses must be revoked. And they have told us that they can revoke the licenses today if the financial provisions are made by the Ministry of Finance to enable them pay investors, because they don't want to revoke the license. And then the next morning, investors are at the Bank of Ghana asking for their money, and they can't tell you where to go for your money.
So that was convener of Locked Up Investment Holders Forum, Dr. Adu Anani speaking. That way from that, summary of the 2024 market activities reveals that the Ghana Stock Exchange recorded 4 price gainers in May. The top price gainers for the month were New Gold, GCB Bank, MTN Ghana, and Total Energies. Here is a report on the details.
The GSE Composite Index gained 1.81% in May to record a new all-time high, bringing its year-to-date gain to 19.92%. The GSE Financial Stock Index also recorded a 0.41% increase, resulting in a year-to-date gain of 7.95%. Following its listing in May 2024, Atlantic Lithium added 2.85 billion cedis to increase the value of all stocks listed on the markets to 84.02 billion cedis by the end of the month. The GSE's fixed income market saw traded volumes of 10.39 billion cedis during May 2024, double the volume traded in May 2023. Treasury bills accounted for 74.53% of volumes traded, whilst government bonds contributed 24.7%, with corporate bonds making up the remaining 0.77%. The value of all securities on the market stood at 328 billion cedis at the end of the month.
That was a 3 Business News Desk report. Moving away from that, analyst and professor of finance at the Gimpa Business School, Ebenezer Bugrianafo, fears the real estate sector may witness decline in investor confidence due to the rising prices of cement. In 5 months of 2024, the price of the product has increased 3 consecutive times to reach 109 cedis 62 pesos. Speaking to 3 Business, Professor Anafo said this could serve as an incentive to investing in the real estate sector.
All those who are working in that sector are likely going to suffer job losses in some way. And the question now is, those who are going to lose their jobs as a result of this, how are they going to support their families? And it will also deter people in terms of investing in the real estate industry. A lot of people might not want to go in because of that, because of this increase in the cement prices. So it's going to actually affect investment in that sector, investor confidence in that sector, and it's going to negatively affect economic growth at this year. So it is something that as a country we need to do something to see if there's a way that we can find a policy that can reduce the cement prices. There are a lot of consequences, but just to mention but a few.
So that was economist and professor of finance at the Gimpa Business School, Ebenezer Bugri Anafo. Away from that, Ghana is in the final stages of choosing a vendor to build its first nuclear power plant. The selection is expected by the end of this year. The 5 competing vendors are Electricité de France of France, NuScale Power, and Regnum Technology Group are competing together from the United States, China National Nuclear Corporation from China, South Korea's Korea Electric Power Corporation and its subsidiary Korea Hydro Nuclear Power Corporation, and Rosatom from Russia. Dr. Stephen Yamwa is the Executive Director of the Nuclear Power Ghana.
Last year, we started a request for information, further information. Our target was to have concluded it last year. We couldn't do that. So, yes, this year is our target to have a conclusion on the evaluation and the decision on the information that we received from the 5 vendors. So, we are still on target, actually, to be able to take the decision based on the information that we have evaluated and the subsequent physical meetings that we've had with the vendors. Barring any unforeseen events, we should be able to take that decision by the end of the year.
So you heard there Dr. Stephen Yamwa, he's the Executive Director of Nuclear Power Ghana, bringing us updates on the country's narrowing down on contenders for its first nuclear power plant. Well, that will be all for today's edition of Business Daily here on 3FM 92.7. For more business stories, please check out our website. It's 3news.com/business. I am Michael Ogbodu. Thank you for listening. As always, please stay safe.